This is Let Us Interrupt You here, episode 51 here on Wednesday, June 1st, 2022. And the only reason I'm doing the show today on a Wednesday is because I had the wake on Friday for my uncle who passed away, and the funeral is Saturday. So it's going to be a wacky schedule for a little bit. It may be a normal schedule next week, Tuesday and Saturday. I don't know yet what the schedule holds for me as far as doing the podcast goes. I may be taking an extended break from this. I'm not sure yet. I haven't really thought about it yet. Although, let's be honest, I'm probably not going to even take an extension break on the show. So for anybody who has that idea in your head, get rid of it now because that's not happening. I'm not going to take a vacation now at this point anyway from doing the show. But I will let you all know when I would be taking a vacation from this because obviously I have enough respect for any viewers out there of mine who support me to this to let them know what the schedule is. But for all the supporters, thank you again. Support is good. Could use a little bit more of it. If you want to hit the like button on this video, you can go right ahead. You can hit the like button. If you want to subscribe. You can follow me on social media as well. The social media description is in the description below in the video. All you do, if you have trouble seeing the whole description of the episode itself, I do put the information in there on the episode. So if you want to give it a click, look to see what the social media is, go right ahead. Some people have been telling me right now that they have not seen it. I mean, I put it in there so that way I want to list off every single social media that I have or my friend has. Today, I am by myself today. There is no Mike again today. I could not make it because he was busy. I didn't know if he was working today or not. I have not heard back from him yet. I figured if he was working today anyway, he would have been rushing down here. I got work at 3. It would have been no point of doing this. So by the time this episode is done, uploaded and all that, you will have the answers that you're looking for here on the show of what I'm talking about today. So today I talk about Darvin Ham, who got hired by the Lakers to become the next head coach, the former assistant Milwaukee Buck, the former Detroit Piston, who ironically played against a 19-year-old LeBron James back in 2004. He was part of the Pistons winning franchise, I believe. I don't know if he was a bench player at the time. He was never a starter. So I don't believe he was. I think he was part of the championship run the Pistons were on back in the 03-04 season. So that's the only thing I can come up with Ham's career. But as an assistant head coach of the Bucks, he was excellent. I think if it wasn't for him, Mike Bolter, Giannis, and the rest of them would not have a championship right now. That's my opinion. The Lakers made a great choice, in my opinion. They could have gone either way with Doc Rivers or any of that, but the Sixers aren't willing to let him go just yet. I think, once again, if you select a guy who's got the vision of basketball, he's got a championship-winning mentality, you need that in this Laker team right now. They seem to forgot how to be a championship-winning franchise, as I just botched that one. They botched their whole season. You know, you look at the missed playoff run they had right now. LeBron James' press conference towards the end of the year saying we didn't have a lot of high expectations. Yeah, you did. You know, his focus was not in the game, LeBron. And I've said this a million times, with the investments that he has, the amount of stuff he has in crypto and stock and all that, and how many minority owners stakes that he has owning a team in sports, it kind of messes with your focus because you can't multitask on being an owner and a player at the same time. You just can't do it. Look at LeBron James did it. LeBron James was a minority owner of the Boston Red Sox, and that's not even a big job. I mean, you're more like a silent partner if that's the case. And here he is in his Laker team with Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, Carmelo Anthony, Dwight Howard, and they missed the playoffs by a lot. And Anthony Davis was injured for most of the season, so you beg the question at this point. You have a contract with Anthony Davis, which is over for 5 years, over $100 million, and you got Russell Westbrook with his $50 million contract. He's not at his best. He's declining, I think, easily now, and he's not. And people want to look at it and say he's missed a triple double. I mean, hasn't had a lot of triple doubles this past season with the Lakers. He's not the guy he was with when he was in Washington or in Oklahoma City. Houston was just a publicity stunt, I think. Even though they made it to the second round of the playoffs, you can't really say that much because Russell Westbrook couldn't even make it into the playoffs with the Lakers. Never mind the second round of the playoffs with the Houston Rockets. So, I mean, That's just my justification behind this whole thing. And now it's one of those things. And I think it's just one of those scenarios where you have to look at these things. And I just, at that point, I just didn't think anything. I just didn't think anything of it when it came to this Laker team on whether or not they were going to be a championship mentality team. Because I just didn't see. I mean, I saw them maybe first round eliminated, maybe second round, but never a deep championship winning team with the players that are aging right now on that team. Carmelo Anthony, who is well past his prime. Dwight Howard, who's just there for the ride. Anthony Davis, who's trying to prove that he's not injury prone. And Russell Westbrook thinks he's better than Kevin Durant still. And you got LeBron James, who's trying to prove that he could be a minority owner of a baseball team like the Red Sox, be like a silent partner, and still try to concentrate on things at hand with the Lakers, and also at the same time getting a good relationship with China. It's not going to help your team win a championship. It's not going to do it. Darvin Ham, I hope he makes that changes. I hope he's better than Frank Vogel. I hope he has a backbone on his team and does what Udoka does here and take this team to a championship someday. I hope it happens. I mean, it's going to be hard to go against the Celtics when you have Udoka, but I don't know. Udoka completely changed the whole landscape of the Boston Celtics. And the fact that he was never head coach of the year, in my opinion, it's kind of a sin. That's all I got to say. It's kind of a sin. Because the Suns couldn't even make it out of the second round, and the Boston Celtics are going to the NBA Finals for the first time in 12 years. So, I mean, there's not much more I could say about that, really, other than just looking at that defining moment and going, all right, well, it's one of those scenarios where it's interesting when you think about it now, and it's just to hear now that Darvin Ham got the job. And I didn't report, and I know this came out like 5 days ago. I'm surprised. I'm sorry I'm reporting this late, but there was so much going on with the Eastern Conference Finals, the hockey playoffs, and all that stuff right now. It kind of buried the story, and most people are still talking about it this week anyway. So I'm not the only one who didn't talk about it. But Darvin Ham, good hire in my opinion. He was a good assistant coach with the Bucks. I think he deserves the job. I think he'll be much better than Vogel. I think he'll be much better than Luke Walton in his time as a Laker head coach. Listen, the Lakers have not had a good head coach, I would probably say, since Phil Jackson. Let's be honest. We can go down the list here of how many coaches they went through after Phil Jackson left. And Mike D'Antoni might have a good track record because he was there the longest. But did he really ever accomplish a thing with the Lakers? No. So, I mean, this is probably the best head coach since D'Antoni, and even since Phil Jackson. You can argue right now that, and I know people are going to look at it and they're going to go, well, what about Frank Vogel? Frank Vogel was just there for the ride too. Like I said, he did absolutely nothing for this team. Absolutely nothing. He let LeBron James lead the whole thing through. There was a pandemic. You can't really count that as a championship win. You can't. Especially when, really, in the end of the day, you had an exhausted NBA season that took a whole calendar year, and then you just expect things to be like, okay, like they're going to be the same way next year. No. There was never a home crowd. You were in a Disney World in a bubble, which is what Disney World is basically like, a big giant bubble at this point. And that was before even COVID even happened. So, I mean, what can you say about that win? It was never really that much of a huge, like, oh, yeah, they did it. Like, they did it for Kobe. It took them 9 months, but they did it for Kobe. If it wasn't for COVID, I mean, this season probably would have been ended. It probably would have been in Los Angeles, too, if they just would have just finished the season off. The problem is that you have scientists who had months of studying about this whole stuff, but couldn't figure it out, supposedly. They still haven't figured it out. We're doing 2 years of this COVID crap. I mean, nobody even knows what to do. And the people out there who want to pretend they have it and not go to work, they're just laughing in our faces about it. Like, haha, we don't really have it. But don't tell our bosses that because we might get fired from our jobs. You know something? This should be this generation should be the ones that like to work and actually like to do stuff. Instead, they just want to be bored, age themselves to death, and die at a young age. It's like, what kind of life is that? Like, why would you want to stay home and not do anything? It's going to make you age even more and make you not want to leave your house. To me, that sounds kind of depressing. And that's what COVID kind of basically did to this NBA season, because you, as a fan, you couldn't really attend the games. So what was the point? Buy a subscription on a crappy computer and hope the guy your screen feed doesn't suck so you watch the game? There's not really a point for you to put in piped-in crowd noise, because they're just going to have crowd noise anyway from games that happened back 20 years ago, to make it seem like the NBA is still that popular, when in reality it's just not. But this hiring was good. This is a good hire, in my opinion. I don't know if the Lakers are going to ever get to that next level, considering how competitive the West is right now. I just think they've got a long way to go with Darvin Ham. He's got a lot of work to do as far as this team goes. They can't get rid of Russell Westbrook. They can't get rid of LeBron. I mean, they could, but the problem is no one wants that contract. And really, nobody wants LeBron James, who's past his prime, in my opinion. I've been saying this now for a while. Yes, he's still averaging the buckets he's averaging. The problem is he's past his prime. It's kind of easy when you can say that with the level of defense in this cupcake league in the NBA. It's easy to say it. But if you're playing Michael Jordan's era, Larry Bird's era, back in the 90s era, LeBron James would have retired at age 32. Because right now, LeBron James is playing like he's 47 years old. He's only 38, I believe. So that's it. I mean, there's not another way of looking at it. I mean, LeBron James here has to win a championship in Los Angeles for real, in my opinion, in order to get back in the good graces of Los Angeles. I mean, it's bad enough they already renamed the Staples Center to the Crypto Arena, which I think is still stupid. I think it's so stupid here. And all it did was make crypto more popular. It didn't make the sport of basketball more popular. It really didn't. So, I mean, you're just, that's it. You didn't make your team any more popular when they were already were popular beforehand. And that's before he became a Laker. This team was sucking and they were still popular. And that was a past prime Kobe Bryant who could still score 60 or 70 points a game. LeBron could barely get to 25, 30. When was the last time LeBron James had a game where he scored for 55, 60 points in a game? I'm just curious. I mean, he had one this past season. I can't remember what it was. But like in a row kind of ordeal, you know? Had a 50-point game the next night, had a 30, 40-point game the next night, and kept it on going. Like rapid fire succession here. See, if young LeBron James was looking at old LeBron James, he'd probably be saying to himself, man, he needs to retire. Because he doesn't want to do it. His heart's not in it. And I just think that his hiring, my concern is you got a Laker team that's got no heart. That doesn't even want to win a championship for the city of Los Angeles. And the city of Los Angeles doesn't even care about who wins a championship anymore, because they didn't even care about the LA Rams winning a Super Bowl title, for Christ's sakes. Most disappointing Super Bowl of all time, in my opinion. And their fan base knows it. But yeah, anyway, I just got a text back from Mike saying that he actually had today off, so I could have done the podcast. Like, the only problem is that I didn't know whether or not he wanted to come down now. If he wants to come down now and take a bus, the only thing is I had to stop this episode here, then go pick him up. It just, no offense. I'm in one of those phases today where I just want to get things done. I got things to do today. I got to go work out today. Then I got to come back here, get ready for work. It would have interfered with my working out today. No offense. I mean, I would love to have him do the show here today. It's just it would have been like taking forever for him, waiting for him to get a bus and then figuring out the bus schedule because he doesn't have a car. It's one of those scenarios where it's just like, yeah, today it's just be me. Like one of these times I'd be like, heck yeah, like I'll stop the show right now. I'll come back an hour later and do the rest of the show. But I just don't have the energy to wait for someone's bus ride to come here after 50 minutes. I just don't have the energy. This actually was not planned as part of the episode. I'm actually going to change topics here and move on. John Madden will be put on the cover for the NFL 23 cover this year. It was revealed late Hall of Famer John Madden returns to the game on the 34th anniversary of the Madden NFL video game hitting stores. EA Sports had made the announcement as this morning that Madden himself, the late Hall of Fame coach and broadcaster John Madden, will be served as the cover man for this year's Madden NFL 23 game. The former Super Bowl champion head coach who passed away and died at 85 last December won't just return as the face of the game for the first time in more than 2 decades, appearing in the updated version of the original 1988 cover, but will also be commemorated in the video game. So what do they mean by that? So this was written by Cody Benjamin on CBS Sports. So this is what the rest of the article says here. Madden's first graced the cover of his annual NFL series for John Madden Football, of which there have been 40 different editions since its inception. A year after the contemporary stars Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes were featured as the first co-cover athletes in over a decade, the Madden NFL 23 cover recreates a 1988 cover in which John Madden is bursting through a chalkboard with X's and O's, carrying a football by surrounding the coach with silver and gold. And a message, quote, "Thank you, coach." There are 3 different unique covers will be rolled out as a part of the game's release, each of them highlighting a different chapter in Madden's lifelong impact on football. The All Madden edition features the reimagined original cover with artwork from the visual artist Chuck Stiles. As for the in-game tributes, Madden's voice will return to the game for the first time in more than a decade, thanks to remastered audio clips from his days as an award-winning broadcaster. Madden NFL 23 will also feature a special Madden versus Madden interactive experience that includes 2 versions of the Madden leading 2 teams of all Madden athletes against each other in the 1970 Oakland Coliseum, where Madden's Raiders advanced to the AFL Championship to cap a 12-1-1 season in 1969. EA has also announced plans to direct funds from a $5 million to John Madden's legacy commitment to education donation revealed earlier this year, directing the $2.5 million to 4 local education nonprofits and another $2.5 million to the creation of the EA Madden Scholarship Partnership with the UNFCF, the United Negro College Fund, that will support graduates at 12 historically Black colleges and universities. That's great. I love hearing this. I didn't mean to offend anybody if I said that word, so I apologize if I did. I'm just basically saying what it stood for there. So the UNFCF, aka the United Negro College Fund. So that is great that the Madden, that EA Sports and the Madden legacy commitment are donating that to those colleges. It's not. It helps out in a very big way. But to have John Madden back on the cover for this game, and to probably have his voice back in the broadcasting booth, you gotta love it. You gotta love that factor going into it, which is to bring back a broadcasting legend's voice back into the game. And John Madden was well known for that, and to basically recreate something that happened 24 years ago, 25 years ago. It's too bad this wasn't the 35th anniversary of the game, because that would have been a hell of a lot more intriguement here. I think they're gonna have a 35th anniversary game next year, because there's been rumors saying right now that they're planning to have his face on the cover next year as well. I hope they do it 2 years in a row. I kind of hope they do, because it kind of makes up for it. It does. I think that would be a good way of doing it. And I think that honor John Madden's memory, and I think they should just do it just for the hell of it this year for Fox, or really in general on CBS, because I think that's where he started off at CBS in his broadcasting career. He really should, they really should think about having another CBS Sports channel with the football games on, of just his Pat Summerall's voice and John Madden's voice together. Because I believe when he was on the Madden game, I don't believe that that they had another broadcaster partner with them in the older games. I think John Madden was just a sole commentator on it who was just doing the play-by-play. I don't recall the old Madden games having the color commentator on, talking with John Madden. I think John Madden was just a sole broadcaster on it. Al Michaels, I know, was on there with John Madden in the old Madden games. I know that. I'm not sure offhand if Pat Summerall was on the video games with the older games before he was partnered up with Al Michaels. I know Al Michaels and John Madden weren't really partnered up until 2003. I believe he was not. I believe he may have been on there beforehand. I could be wrong, but I don't believe he was. But yeah, Al Michaels and Madden were together from 2003 to 2009. That was the end. That was Super Bowl 43, which was the last game that he called. But the rest of the time there, I mean, it was, you could argue that was an interesting way of putting John Madden on the. I mean, just that game alone. If it wasn't for those Madden games at this point, I mean, who knows if Madden would have been more popular ever. What if it was never a Madden NFL football game? What if John Madden never broadcast? Would there ever be a push for players and coaches or any of them out there for broadcasting? Let's put it this way. If John Madden was never a play-by-play commentator, would Tom Brady ever have the desire to be a play-by-play person for Fox Sports next year? I don't know. I'm looking at this from this scenario, and I think to myself, like, I think John Madden should be on the cover for next year's cover as well. So I hope it happens. It'd be a big way to keep that game alive, to keep the name, like, in memory forever for John Madden. I'm glad that they're putting his name on the cover here. I think that was the right way to do it. I think there's no other way of doing it besides putting him on the cover here. I don't think there was any other choice here. I mean, if John Madden was still alive today, I think he'd be happy. I think he'd be happy that his voice would be back in the video game. I think he would be playing the video game right now as his little thing just to hear his voice. Just to hear his voice. I've always wondered that, actually. If John Madden ever played Madden NFL football with his grandkids. Like, if he ever had the time to play a Madden NFL video game just to hear his voice in the broadcasting thing. I don't know. I can imagine someday that Tom Brady would just do that just to hear himself talking on the Madden games. I mean, they might actually go through with it. I wonder if they ever have a plan for this. I'm just trying to imagine this for a minute. What would people rather buy? A Madden NFL video game or a Tom Brady NFL game? With Tom Brady being the broadcaster, of course, on The Voice. I wonder if Tom Brady would ever call his own football games. I wonder if that's how it would go here. If he would ever create his own video game for it. Holy crap! I just put an idea in Tom Brady's head. Hopefully, I didn't spark any controversy there with that one. That would be that'd be unfortunate. But yeah, I mean, I've always wondered that about John Madden, though. If he ever would ever play the video game just to hear himself talk. Honestly, I mean, let's put it this way: if I was an NFL football player and I retired, and I joined the broadcasting booth, and I would play, I would probably play the video game too just to hear myself talk. Why not? I think it'd be intriguing actually to hear myself talk in the broadcasting booth while being an actual football player. But I think that the idea, though, of having CBS Sports or even Fox Sports or NBC Sports, if they ever want to think of the same thing, if they ever want to do a John Madden tribute, to having another channel show the actual game, but with holographic picture of John Madden, of him broadcasting the game, I think a lot of fans would love it. I think a lot of people would love it. I would love it if they ever go through with that. I mean, we definitely have the technology to do that. If we have the technology for robot umpires in baseball, then we have the technology for this. I mean, it's just, the question is, are networks ever going to pull through to go through with it? I don't think they're going to. It's a competitive field and a dying breed where they all got to make a mark now before it's too late. So, I mean, we'll see what happens now going forward with that. But John Madden being put back on the cover and really being put back in the game itself for the first time in nearly, I would say, I don't know, it's been 15 years. It's been like, let me see, because the last game I think he was broadcasting Madden NFL 08, and I don't believe he ever did the 09 game. But, which I'm surprised because that was the last year that John Madden even broadcasted. So it was kind of strange that he wasn't, I don't believe he was put in that game. He may have been. I don't know if he was set. I don't know if it was one of those option things where you had to slide into the broadcast. That was another thing about the Madden NFL featured games here. They would actually, I believe that Madden NFL 09 game had a list of broadcasters that he would use for an option. Most of the Madden games were. It didn't make the actual gameplay better. It made the broadcasting feed probably better, but as far as the gameplay goes, not so much. I mean, it took a downhill spiral. From Madden, because I would say from Madden, I would say going back to the first Madden edition, from that 88 game on to, I would say, to like right around the 25th anniversary is where the NFL Madden game started to die out a little bit. I think that was, and I think this may just revived it. And I kind of hope they put Madden on there for next year, just for the 35th anniversary for it. Mm-hmm. And I think now, with my pure genius and sometimes at the same time dumb stupidity right now, I may have just gave Tom Brady the best idea of his career. And that's basically creating a video game of himself calling football games and having the John Madden versus Tom Brady thing. Now, here's the question right now at this point going forward. Would anybody buy a Tom Brady broadcasted NFL football game? Because realistically, that may be a thing someday. Because TV12 is getting bigger and stronger by the day. But does it ever have a chance of beating the Madden games? It doesn't. It doesn't. And I kind of hope now at this point it kind of does happen, all just to see. I just want to see who would buy the games. I just want to see who would buy the games. I wasn't trying to make this about Tom Brady over John Madden. I really wasn't. But it just the idea of it, because I thought about it just now. I thought to myself, I just realized something here. Because Tom Brady, because here's the thing. Here's my real question about this. Does Tom Brady really want to be a broadcaster? Or was he just trying to keep the name relevant at this point? And they just told him broadcasting, they threw the money at him, and he's like, okay. Because I feel like this is more like a forced Fox kind of ordeal, more than Tom Brady asking for over $400 million. I just can't see Tom Brady being about the money. Now, people are going to look at it and they're going to say, oh, he changed after that whole 2019 season. Wouldn't you? If you had a wide receiving core that really was below average at best, and you had a torn MCL, and you played through it that season because you knew the team didn't have another quarterback in mind, that Jared Stidham was nowhere close to being ready to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Let's be real about this for a minute. Let's be real. I mean, realistically, Jared Stidham was a bust. 4th round bust. Okay, people want to look at it and say, oh, it's always about the first 3 rounds. No. In this case here, if you're drafted in your position you got to have a chance to prove yourself and you fail miserably and you're taken out of the league, you're an automatic bust in the league, period. I've said that now from day one. Now, I just think realistically, Tom Brady, when he tore his MCL that season, I think he really said to himself, I really want this money. Now, I don't think Tom Brady would ever ask for $200 million from the New England Patriots a season here, because he knows because he's well past that age at this point to be asking that kind of dough. Not like Deshaun Watson and Mahomes begging money, but that's what it was. Mahomes wanted more money. So did Deshaun Watson. There you go. Right? Now, in this case here, for Brady, he always said he would take a pay cut for the team because it was good. It was good for the team. When really, in reality, they backstabbed him. It only took Tom Brady to realize at the end of that season when he tore his MCL that, yeah, I need to get the hell out of here because they're never going to give me the money. And I'm not asking for much. And he really wasn't, to be fair. He still isn't. Hell, they gave him an extension and he didn't even want it in Tampa Bay after they won Super Bowl 56. So, yeah, I mean, let's be real here for a minute, folks. Let's be real. Tom Brady is not always about the money. He's always about playing the game. And if he ever decides to retire and actually go through with the deal and not screw Fox out of a play-by-play person and just keep the money and run, then I change my whole perception about Tom Brady. But I just can't see Tom Brady being that guy to take the money and run in this scenario. I just can't imagine that happening. I think his parents would love to hear him in the broadcasting booth. I think it'd be one nice tribute and honoring Tom of himself. John, I mean, I don't think he'll be. I mean, he's nowhere near a John Madden in play-by-play calling. Hell, I don't think there'll ever be a person that will ever top John Madden ever again. You can create as many video games as you want and put your own little spin on it, but John Madden was hardcore. He was the guy that would run through brick buildings and make an impact and go boom, or run through chalkboards with X's and O's on it and go boom. He had his own personality. Hell, he had the turducken, for Christ's sakes. Nothing's going to top that. But John Madden, as far as I'm concerned, can beat anybody in the broadcasting booth. There's not a doubt in my mind. I would rather watch him hearing audio clips of John Madden broadcast a football game than listen to oh God, who were the awful people that called that game on CBS last year with the Patriots and Texans? It wasn't the top ones on CBS Sports. It was the other guys. They were stale and they were vanilla. I'd rather listen to old audio clips of John Madden calling football games than hearing the lesser versions of people who call games on CBS Sports. I wouldn't. You know what would be a really awesome one for just for the heck of it? John Madden calling a game with Marv Albert. That would have been awesome. That would have been fantastic. I would have loved to listen to that. That right there would have topped anything that Madden would have ever done with Al Michaels. Just his passion alone and John Madden's passion together, put together there, it would have been a storybook ending. And I think John Madden should have stayed in the broadcasting field. I think that took a downwards, a negative tailspin downward a little bit as far as NFL broadcasting goes, because once Madden left, I mean, it survived a year or two, but after that, there was a lot of questionable broadcasters. Don't get wrong, you still had the same people in there from time to time, but the newer ones that were coming in, they just, I don't know, they just didn't have the same passion. They didn't have the same delivery or arc or anything like that would have kept people hooked in watching the games. So, I mean, you're not gonna get an argument from anybody else. I mean, John Madden is one of the greatest play-by-play calls of all time in broadcasting. I mean, you got the Oakland Raider guy on the radio, but I mean, going wholly Toledo, but I can't think of his name right now offhand. But John Madden had more personality, and he was entertaining. He was funny. The rest of these broadcasters today, I mean, can try to live up to that end of the deal right there, but you're not going to see Tony Romo go into a chalkboard. You're not going to see Jim Nantz go into a chalkboard. You're not going to see Marv Albert coming in there throwing Superman punches at one of those lineman tackle dummy things where all the linemen push those linebacker defensive guys forward like that. You're never going to see that. Okay? It's just never going to happen. I just think to myself, when you have someone like John Madden with that much charisma, that much personality, and just a class that he brought to the table as a play-by-play commentator, there's no one like him. And there'll never be another John Madden, in my opinion. No matter who you put in the booth, you can put in Peyton Manning in the booth, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, Big Ben Roethlisberger. It's just not going to be the same. And I think when John Madden left the broadcasting booth, it was a lot of worry. And I think a lot of people know it. Now, we go from that to to the actual stories this week, which is we're going to say on the NFL side of things. Akiem Hicks signed a 1-year deal yesterday with the Bucks. I don't have the initial contract in front of me. I don't believe that I do. I may have it in front of me, actually. I just posted a story last night on my Facebook. If you want to follow me on Facebook, it's just my first name, my last name, Joseph Olivo. And under that is the caption, "The man, the myth, the legend, bright lights, big cities are in my future, the voices for radio." I should probably put in a voice for radio and television too, just for the hell of it. But I do have the contract in front of me, I believe, because he just got signed as of yesterday. It is 1 year worth up to $10 million to play with the Buccaneers. He's basically Ndamukong Suh's replacement. There's no other way of putting it. Ndamukong Suh right now at this point has no plans on coming back to playing football this year, I don't believe. And if he does, it's probably not going to be with the Bucs because they're not going to be able to afford him. There's too many guys in that team. So they were lucky enough to bring back Leonard Fournette, for Christ's sakes. Now, as far as Gronk goes, I mean, Gronk might come back. I don't know when he's going to come back. But, yeah, but that was a good deal by Akiem Hicks signing yesterday. There was another thing I didn't put in here, but this was one I probably should have brought up, which was the NFL commissioner, Roger Goodell, according to an attorney. This was a story that was found out by from the spun.com. This was Matt Haldick, who wrote the thing yesterday. And this is what was said yesterday, because this is according to an attorney right now who might be, who I think is representing John Gruden, if I'm not mistaken. Or may not, it would just be like a random attorney here who thinks that Roger Goodell may lose his job if Gruden wins this lawsuit. And I think I'm actually going to be in full agreement on this. The lawsuit between former Las Vegas Raider head coach John Gruden and the NFL remains ongoing. One Las Vegas-based attorney thinks it ultimately could wind up costing NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell his job. Last week, Nevada Judge Nancy Alfif ruled against the league's motion to deal with the case through confidential arbitration and to dismiss it as a whole. As a result, the case will proceed in open court, and the discovery phase could be a massive concern for the NFL, according to Adam Hill of the Las Vegas Review-Journal. I'm not going to read the rest of the article here because this is my take on the whole thing. And by the way, my opinion on this whole thing here is this, is that it's going to cost him his job. But according to Sam Mishevic, for Sam Ash Law Firm in Las Vegas, it is important to note that Mercer does not have an inside info here. But his read for the case makes him think that Goodell prosecuted. This is what he quoted. "I predict that this suit will ultimately cost Goodell his job. With adversaries like Gruden and Davis, Goodell faces a discovery effort that will look to uncover evidence of Goodell's own wrongdoing. In today's digital world, the same one that hung Gruden out to dry, I find it inconceivable that there isn't something out there that could kill Goodell's career. Yes, the scope of the discovery is limited to the case at hand, but the discovery has a way of finding all the skeletons." That is right there, I would say right now, that if there's not things building right now against Roger Goodell, I don't know what the hell is. Because that man's got a lot of skeletons in that closet. A lot of people who can backstab him in the back. He has 32 NFL owners gunning for him. If he screws up royally bad here, he's done. Period. That money is null, void, and you name it. And I wouldn't, if I'm Goodell, I wouldn't trust any of my bosses. I wouldn't trust any of them. Even his friend Robert Kraft would not trust him either. And honestly, for all 32 NFL owners out there, I kind of hope you stab Roger Goodell in the back here and you get this man fired. Because what he did to John Gruden was just ridiculously bad. Now, is John Gruden a racist? I don't think he is. Is he a sexist? Maybe. Is he kind of a pig? Maybe. But who cares? This guy should have never lost his job to begin with. And the only reason why he did wasn't because of the scandals and all that stuff and what Goodell did to him. It's because the Raider franchise is such a mess as a whole that they believe in ruining Gruden's career. They wanted Gruden gone because they didn't like the way they were treating Derek Carr. Derek Carr needed a reality check. And he actually did good for John Gruden before John Gruden even got let go. So this notion, this idea that John Gruden, hated Derek Carr, that wasn't the case. He was just trying to motivate the kid, and the kid just wanted the guy gone. And this right here happened to happen right in front of Derek Carr's face, this whole lawsuit. So the idea that this even happened, it's one of those things where you just move on and keep on going and don't let it become a distraction for you for the entire season. And the reality of it is John Gruden lost his job because of things that he said about DeMaurice Smith. Now, did he take it to a whole nother level? Did he go too far with it? Was there an assistant that probably cost him the job? Probably. He probably had a racist person on his side, and he probably didn't even know it. And why would this come out 6 years later? Was it ever resolved? Was it really ever John Gruden? Or did Roger Goodell hack into John Gruden's email, say it's really from him, create a fake email profile? Because remember, Roger Goodell and DeMaurice Smith were not really on good terms during the lockout. He could have been saying some racist crap during the lockout. That's why it took so freaking long for it to happen. And it only took for one guy to step in, and Robert Kraft, who is a white owner, who is a white person, by the way. Imagine that, when a white person stepping in to resolve a black and white issue. Because that's what this whole thing was, is what it turned out to be. It went from players and commissioner to an NFLPA associate player who hated Goodell's guts, and they were at war with each other. That's what it turned into. It didn't really turn into any NFL play because nothing's really changed. The only difference is the amount of money is much larger now than it was before. That's all that had changed. And it was changing before the lockout even became a conversation. So, I mean, I don't know what else to say here other than just looking at those factors going into it. So, this attorney believes that Goodell's job is on the line here. I think he's right. There are a lot of people out there right now that could really turn this guy's world upside down. And because of this fire, and think about it. Goodell was probably playing, because let's be honest, these NFL owners could care less about DeMaurice Smith. They could care less about Roger Goodell. They could care less about how much money they give these guys or how much they're making. They don't care. They could care less. But Goodell could create fake evidence that would have gone against Gruden in the first place. I believe he was the one that he sent those emails to DeMaurice Smith. I don't know what DeMaurice Smith and Gruden would have been feuding about anyway. And that would have been a bigger story because it happened in the same season as the NFL lockout would have happened. So I don't know how that kept in-house, something like this. But it never would have affected the game because you can't redo a lockout anyway. You can't lock somebody out because of a broadcaster at the time. You can't do that. So, in my opinion, this is all going to backfire right at Goodell's face. Gruden wins the lawsuit. Goodell gets fired before the NFL season starts. Now, I don't know how long this case is going to take. It could take months. It could take weeks. It could take years, days, whatever. Whatever the case may be, however long this is going to take, it's going to take a while. But if it happens throughout the NFL season and becomes a bigger distraction enough to the owners, Goodell's going to get fired just so the NFL owners can stop being distracted. It's kind of a cold world, this world is. Really cold world. So, don't think for 1 second that they're not liking the fact right now they're paying this guy $500 million. Mm-hmm. Each of them are. Equally. It bothers them. And it should. Because the commissioner has been nothing but a poison in the league right now since he started becoming the commissioner back in 2007. So, that's my take. Now on to the Deshaun Watson story. Sad news from the day yesterday about Deshaun Watson. And that is Deshaun Watson right now is facing lawsuit number 23. There's been a 23rd woman right now alleged inappropriate sexual conduct. This is what the story said. This is according to Jake Trotter, ESPN, the staff writer. It says here, another woman has filed a lawsuit against Deshaun Watson, joining the 22 others who accused of the Cleveland Browns quarterback in civil cases filed in 2021 of inappropriate sexual conduct during massage sessions. In the 23rd civil case filed Tuesday in Texas against Watson, the lawsuit states that the plaintiff had her first massage session with Watson during the summer of 2020, and that his behavior grew worse. During the third and final massage, she alleges in the lawsuit that Watson exposed himself to her, touched the woman between the legs, and repeatedly requested to have sex with him. According to the lawsuit, the woman changed her mind about suing Watson after watching HBO Real Sports with Brian Gumbel last week. On that show, two other women, Ashley Souls and Kayla Hayes, who have accused of Watson of inappropriate sexual conduct, criticized the Browns for giving the quarterback an NFL record $230 million guaranteed contract after trading for him in March. It's just like a big, and this is what Ashley Souls said, it's just like a big screw you. And that's what she told HBO. Leah Graham, one of Watson's attorneys, told HBO that Watson had no regrets because he did nothing wrong. In that piece, the plaintiff was struck by the courage of the victims willing to step forward and speak, and was extremely displeased by Watson and his legal team's mistreatment and re-victimization of the plaintiffs. The latest lawsuit states, but if Watson was himself claiming that he even has no regrets and has done nothing wrong, that solidified her resolve. She brings this case seeking minimum compensation, but to obtain a court finding that Watson's conduct was wrong. And there's just more to the story now in here, but I'm not going to read the whole thing. Here's my opinion on the whole Deshaun Watson story. If the girl's saying these things, and Deshaun Watson saying he did nothing wrong, and he exposed himself, if he exposed himself, look, was it a mistake? Yes. There was one point, I think, back in the story here, wasn't there like a story that said Deshaun Watson exposed himself to the girl, made the girl uncomfortable, she started crying, and he apologized? Was that one of the girls that posed a lawsuit then? And think about this one for a minute. If the girls were so uncomfortable during the first massage, and I'm just pointing this out there, why wouldn't you just quit your job that day? Why would Deshaun Watson get released that day? Because you want to know why? Because the Houston Texans organization doesn't know what the hell they're doing. Hell, they kept Bill O'Brien around instead of keeping around DeAndre Hopkins. That says a lot about this whole thing. And they didn't even want this guy around, Watson, the owner. He didn't want him around. And this right here was enough to prove it. Now, these girls should have quit at this time. They should have said, no, I'm not going to massage Deshaun Watson. He's inappropriate. These girls should have never did what they did. And one of the players should have stepped up and either rat on him, or he would have gotten released probably. They were probably afraid of their jobs. Because you got a wild Texan out there as an owner out there who don't give a crap about anybody but himself. Now, if these girls were really uncomfortable, if all 23 of these women were really uncomfortable with doing Deshaun Watson, and I love it here, it says here, out of the third time massaging him, the third massage session, his behavior grew worse. I would say, fool me once, shame on you, and then that's end it right there. He crossed the line right there during the first massage. Now, the girl said it got worse because he exposed himself during the third massage. Here's my question. If the first 3 times were that bad, why would you just keep on going? Why would you continue this whole thing? And I just don't get the logic behind this whole thing. Now, Maybe they got new women. Maybe they didn't mind it. I don't know what the case may be about this whole scenario. But think about it. Deshaun Watson sat out an entire year of the NFL that season. Now, it was reported from NFL reporter Albert Breer that the NFL may make their decision in July on whether or not Deshaun Watson will get suspended or not. And they're saying it could be an 8-game ban. I'm telling you right now, if this is all true, if there's new evidence that comes to light here, it changes my whole perception around Deshaun Watson. And I think he gets banned for the entire NFL season because 22 women, 23 women in this day and age with new, and now even new evidence, because if it's less than an entire season, I think Goodell's more in trouble than people think. Now, I believe right now, if I'm not mistaken, here, Watson would only get paid base salary based on this whole thing. This is based on what I heard yesterday on the Black and White Sports podcast yesterday, which I normally listen to on a weekly basis. Good content. But the thing of it is we need the evidence. And right now, this woman is talking. There's been 2 women so far. One that said that she cried and Watson apologized. And then the other one saying that he just exposed his junk to her and made her extremely uncomfortable during the 3rd massage. And his behavior was weird the first 3 times doing. Why would she keep on doing that the first time? If these women had a bad experience the first time doing it, then they would say no. See, it's like if you're it's like a woman out there going on a date with a creepy guy on the first date, and the guy's such a creep, such a weirdo that they can't even continue with it. She's not comfortable, and they gotta sneak out the bathroom window just to get away from the guy. Or better yet, they continue with a weird date. He gets even weirder, makes her even more uncomfortable, and makes her feel extremely uncomfortable, and basically plants a wet one that's so wet, so bad, so pathetic that it turns a girl completely off, and they never hear from them ever again. It's one of those scenarios. That's what I can compare it to, because I can't think of another comparison besides that. And so I only bring this up because I say to myself, there's no point right now for what, there's no excuse for what Watson did. If Watson did it, he needs an answer for it. Right now, there's 2 women right now that have made more of a case of it right now than any other time. The other 20 women made it when it was basically a personal case, not a civil case, more of a criminal case, really. When it was a criminal case, it was not that there was not much said, but now when it's civil, it's more brought up. And I think really it should go right back to a criminal if that's the case. It should go right back to a criminal. And so I make this plea to the NFL at this point. Look hard into this. Because no woman should feel that extremely uncomfortable or forced to do this kind of job in this kind of day and age. And honestly, out there, if Watson went as far as to do this, I just think it just makes Watson look bad. He put himself in this mess. He did. And the Cleveland Browns organization looks foolish now and stupid for signing this guy and giving him the $230 million deal. Because now you're in real bad shape. You're in deep dog crap. And Baker Mayfield has yet to be traded. And so, yeah, that's it. In a nutshell, that's pretty much it. I mean, it does not look good. I'm just trying to imagine Ben Roethlisberger getting massages from girls back then. You know? After the crap that he pulled over the years. There's another thought process that popped in my head. Anyway. So, that's that. Other news today right now, Aaron Donald today right now has not made a long-term deal yet with the Rams. He's got a contract with the team right now until 2023, I believe to 2024. But he's at peace right now. If there's no long-term deal made here, he's at peace with retirement. If Aaron Donald wants to retire, he's going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer anyway. He was that much of a menace on that football field. He made more of a bigger impact than Ndamukong Suh ever did. So that's that. I mean, I like the idea of Aaron Donald getting a long-term deal. I don't know why the Rams haven't pulled it off yet. At this point, I mean, they haven't done anything with Matthew Stafford yet. I don't even think Matthew Stafford even got an extension. Now the more I think about it, I don't think he ever did after that Super Bowl season. Like, I may have to look back on that. I'm not really sure. Any more NFL news right now is Travis Jones, wide receiver, is no longer with the team. He was, I guess there was a report saying right now that he was, there was intoxication right now with the, he was arrested. He was arrested for, I believe, it was an arrest made on early yesterday morning. It was a report saying right now that Jones was a member of the practice squad for the last 2 years. His goal was try to make the spot. News broke yesterday that Jones was pulled over by Tampa police and was driving erratically, which soon resulted into his arrest. So that's what led to his release. See, when you make dumb mistakes, this is what happens. You get arrested for it. There's no need to be doing that kind of stuff. You're putting life at risk by doing what you're doing. So that's that. So anyway, Gary Payton will be making his will be a game time decision tomorrow night for the Warriors as they take on the Boston Celtics. Game 1 of the NBA Finals is on tomorrow night at 9:00 in San Francisco. And yes, it's the NBA Finals that should have been an NBA Finals matchup 4 years ago, which will be the Boston Celtics taking on the Golden State Warriors. Big time NBA Finals feel there. My prediction, I will say this again here. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I don't think I've ever said it on the show, but I will say it here in this particular case. The Celtics are going to win this series in 6 games back in Boston. Mark my words. That will happen. And your Finals MVP, in my opinion, will be Jason Tatum. Defensive star of the entire series will probably be Marcus Smart. But yeah. And he was on the podcast the other day with JJ Redick. I can't think of the name of the podcast right now, but he believed that the Celtics could have beaten the Golden State Warriors back in 2018. I think they could have beaten them back in 2018 too. They had that team figured out. They really did. Like, a lot of people don't realize it. They had Durant in them, I believe, to under 90 points in that game. I think they won 93-88 that season. I think it was in 2017-2018 during a regular season game. Now, a lot of people are thinking, oh, it doesn't really matter. It's early in the year. But when you meet up again and you kind of play really great defense against them, you kind of get the gist of it, of what Marcus Smart is saying. He's not full of it. I mean, I'm not usually a guy to believe in Marcus Smart and what he says in interviews anyway, but I just think that's going to be that would be interesting here to see what he said there, and really to believe it. Because I mean, I'm not normally a Marcus Smart believer. Anytime he opens his mouth, he's always full of crap. Here, I'm starting to warm up to the guy now. It took me about 8 years to warm up to this guy, but he's finally warming up on me. So it's probably a good thing for him. Continuing with the NBA right now, Quin Snyder, Jazz head coach right now, I put down in the description, is burnt out and may step down as the as coach right now of the Jazz. He's going to possibly step down from tender in this team. This is what the article said. This was written by Adrian Wojnarowski and Tim McMahon. After weeks of conversation with ownership and management, Utah Jazz coach Quin Snyder's future remains unclear, and possibly exists that he could decide to end his 8-year tender with the franchise. While talks are described as good faith, attempts at resolution that will keep Snyder, discussions with owner Ryan Smith and CEO of basketball operations Danny Ainge have yet to secure the coach's return for next season, sources said. The Jazz have offered to extend Snyder's current contract, which has 2 years left on it, including in his option for the 2023-2024 season, sources say. The organization would also welcome Snyder simply returning on his current contract for next season, sources said as well. There's more to that quote, but I'm not going to get into it. I think he's burnt out because he knows that he's in a lose-lose situation. He's not happy there. He knows he's losing Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. If he goes back there without those two guys back there, he has no future. He would get fired, regardless of how many years left there was on his contract, because that team would be tanking. They'd be gone. And with him around, I mean, I kind of think that they were wanting to be gone to begin with, because they gave up in that series against the Mavericks. They did. This is a team that almost went to the Western Conference Finals last season, and this season they couldn't even get out of the first round, and that was against a really banged-up Dallas Maverick team. And I just think to myself, there's no possible way that they would actually look into this whole thing. They would. There's no way they would look into this and saying to themselves, yeah, they really want this guy around. They don't want him around. He knows it. Now, the only reason they're probably bringing this up because they don't want to pay the guy when he's not coaching the team, so they're trying to keep him in good faith just for that. And to that I say, sorry, dude. I mean, honestly, here's my opinion. I think he wants a CEO position. I don't think he wants to coach anymore. I think he's trying to pull a Brad Stevens here and trying to get a CEO, basketball operations department outside the Utah Jazz. And I think he wants to take over another basketball team. Now, who that team might be, I don't know. I think Danny Ainge wants his job in Utah. I think he's not that burnt out yet. I think he was just wanting to get away from Boston. And I said this before, and I'll say it again. He was tired of Jason Tatum. He was tired of Danny Ainge. I think Danny Ainge and Rick Grosbacek going back and forth, and Brad Stevens been going back and forth in the whole thing. It may have broken and hurt and damaged the relationship of those two individuals. It may have happened. And now here, you got Quin Snyder, who's now lost Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell. And then those two players are at each other's throats. And then you involve the coach. And I think he got burnt out just from listening to their drama throughout the last few seasons of them making the playoffs. So, because really Donovan Mitchell wants to become the face of the team and makes it all about himself. And Rudy Gobert wants to be a helper, wants to be a playmaker, center, wants to become the next Shaq, but gets ridiculed by the media. And so that just leads into question right now, does Quin Snyder even have the motivation to coach these guys next season? If with these guys gone, will he be better off or will he suck and get fired? I mean, I just look at that and I go, there's your answer right there. He wants to be gone. He's willing to step down. His future's unclear. Yes, the season's still going on. The NBA Finals starts tomorrow night. But the guy wants out of Salt Lake City. That's it. It's that simple. He's not happy. He doesn't want to be there anymore. And you want to know something right now? I could think of maybe one team to be a CEO of basketball operations. That's for the Washington Wizards. They could use another CEO. Bradley Beal might come back to Washington right now. That's a good sign. And Donovan Mitchell, if he wants to join up with Bradley Beal and Rudy Gobert wants to go play somewhere else, great. You know where Rudy Gobert could go play for? He can go play for the San Antonio Spurs. Mitchell could go play for the Washington Wizards. And Quin Snyder, who I think has always been on the side of Mitchell anyway. I don't think he ever was a Gobert fan to begin with. This could work out in their favor here. It could work out for both those guys. Rudy Gobert, we'll see what happens. He can try to redeem himself with San Antonio and become the Tim Duncan 2.0. There's my take right there on that one. That's that. I just got a few more things to talk about right now. We got the Oilers and Avalanche who played last night. They played in a instant classic last night in the game one of the Western Final in the Stanley Cup playoffs for hockey. As the Avalanche won 8-6 last night. Game started off with Evander Kane getting a goal early in the game, putting the Oilers up 1-0. The assists were made by Yamamoto and Nugent Hopkins. J.G. Cropper got a goal to tie the game up at 1 apiece. 36 seconds after the Kane goal. And it was assist made by Newhook and Borvarovsky. I think I said that. Burakovsky. I'm sorry. Burakovsky. McKinnon got a goal thanks to Maker and Toes. Hyman got a goal. The game's now tied at 2-2. Later on, Maker got an unassisted goal. Took over the whole game. Took over the whole field himself and got the goal. Made it 3-2. Kadari got a power play goal, putting Colorado up 4-2. McLeod got a goal, made it 4-3. Ratan got a goal, made it 5-3. Cropper answered his second goal of the game. Kalingo got the seventh goal for the Avalanche, and Connor McDavid got in the game as well. He got a 7-4 game as well. There was one power. Kadari got the power play goal for the Avalanche in the second period. Ryan got his fifth goal here for the Oilers. Hopkins got a power play goal himself. McDavid with an assist along with Zari. And Landeskog got an unassisted goal, made a goal himself late in the game. Putting the Avalanche up 1-0 in their series, and they win 8-6. Another instant classic. 14 goals scored combined. Oilers did this in the last series. They lost 9-6, and they were able to put away the Calgary Flames in 5 games here. Could this be the same thing here? Could Colorado's team just be exposed? They almost came back and won. Remember that. They almost came back and won. And, this style of play right now in these playoffs so far have been impressive. It's been high scoring here and keeping the fans into it. I like that kind of thing about hockey. Now, in a game 7, it sometimes could be, overbearing because the other team could be exhausted and they're not even trying as much here. These two teams were going at it. They were showing them how they're not all about the defense and how they're all about the offense. And it showed last night. David had 2 assists last night. Crumper had 2 goals last night. Maker had 1 goal, 2 assists last night in the helpings of the team get their goals here. It was a back and forth affair. Really back and forth affair at this point now going forward. And I thought that made it so interesting to watch that game last night live. I didn't really watch it live, but watching it live, I can imagine the fan base there. They were going insane. But I rewatched the game this morning. I thought it was a great game last night. Edmonton's had the 2 best games in the entire playoffs so far. The Calgary Flame Oiler game in game 1 and this game last night. And there was another game where they went to Los Angeles, and I'm pretty sure they scored 8 goals on them. They scored 8 goals on it in the LA Kings, and they shut them out in LA. Think about that for a minute. There's been a lot of entertaining playoffs in this series. They had an overtime game with the Kings. They lost that one in game 1, and they came back and won the series, and they won in 7 games. That's been the common theme of the story now, is that the Oilers here have had every series so far, when they've lost game 1, they were able to come back and win the series. I feel like there's going to be the same thing here. If Colorado doesn't help out the team out and make their team a little bit better. These are my 2 teams right here early in the season that I believe we're going to go to the Stanley Cup final. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't know who to go with here. I don't know if I want to go with my original prediction, which was the Oilers in the Penguins are out of the playoffs now anyway, would be the Oilers and Rangers, or I want to see the Avalanche and Rangers. I don't know. Because if it was Boston Bruins, the Oilers would have won in 5 games, and if it was the Avalanche would have swept them. That's my argument. Avalanche would have swept the Bruins. That's what would have happened there. But, this felt like last night an instant classic playoff matchup last night. It did not feel like an all-star affair where no one's even trying. Anyway. But that was a great game last night. Back and forth affair. Both teams really wanted it more. And this is only game 1. I can't wait for game 2. We have some breaking news. Canadians remove interim tag and give coach a 3-year contract extension. That they promoted Martin St. Louis as now went from an interim head coach to a permanent head coach, what seems like now to this team. And they also signed him a 3-year extension. So good for the Montreal Canadiens. It's too bad now at this point they got 3 years to make this team worth a damn, and it ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen for the Montreal Canadiens. Anyway, last night, Red Sox play. We had some baseball that was on last night. I'll give you the scores from that one from last night. The Reds, for the first time in 47 years, beat the Red Sox last night 2-1. I'll get a little bit more coverage of the Red Sox in just a little bit here. The Cubs beat the Brewers 8-7. Giants beat the Phillies in 11 innings last night 7-4. There was a doubleheader yesterday involved the Twins and the Tigers. In Game 1, the Twins beat the Tigers 8-2. The Cleveland Guardians beat the Kansas City Royals 8-3. The Yankees beat the Angels last night 9-1. The Mariners go into Baltimore, beat the Baltimore Orioles 10-0. The Toronto Blue Jays won at home against the Chicago White Sox 6-5. Detroit Tigers won Game 2 at home in that doubleheader 4-0. The Mets shut out the Nationals at home 10-0. Albert Pujols had a walk-off yesterday against the San Diego Padres 3-2. Texas Rangers beat the Tampa Bay Rays 3-0. Arizona Diamondbacks in 10 innings beat the Atlanta Braves last night 8-7. The Astros beat the Oakland Athletics in the Oakland Coliseum 3-1. Pittsburgh Pirates come to Los Angeles. They beat the Dodgers 5-3. And the Marlins and Rockies were were postponed last night, and they will have a doubleheader on today. So as far as the runs and how they were scored last night for the Cubs-Brewers game, well, the Cubs had a instant classic last night. They were down 6-3 thanks to a Qatari home run last night for the Brewers. Cubs responded with 3 runs in the 6th inning. Or, I'm sorry, 4 runs in the 6th inning. Wisdom hit a homer to left field last night to take the Cubs to the go-ahead run, making it 8-7 last night. The Giants last night, Jock Peterson had a clutch 3-run shot last night to make the Giants go up 7-4 in the 11th inning. The Yankees last night were hammering on last night. They were up 5-0 after the 2nd inning. Matt Carpenter, who made his debut with the Yankees last night, hit a 2-run shot, making it 4-0. Trevino had a go-ahead homer, making it 9-1. And the Trevino homer in the 7th inning for the Angels. Other than that, I'm just going to talk about the main games that were on last night. The Blue Jays really, Kirk homered twice for the Blue Jays. They homered once in the 2nd inning, making it 2-1. He had a nice 2-run shot. And he homered again, another 2-run shot in the 5th inning, making it 6-3. So the Blue Jays are now 28-20 on the season. They are not that far behind of the Yankees right now for first place. The Rays right now are in 3rd place behind the Blue Jays. They're at 28-21. Albert Pujols had a sacrifice fly walk-off, which allowed Edman to score in the 10th inning there, made it 3-2. The Cardinals were up 2-0 in this game. Gresham had a homer to right center field for the Padres. And that was that. As far as the Red Sox go right now, it was a 2-1 game last night. Reynolds had a homer, scored on a throwing error by the Red Sox yesterday by third baseman Devers. Senzo was safe at first. Senzo advanced to second base. I believe Reynolds was the one that scored. Aquino went to third thanks to the errors. There was 2 men on at that point in the 6th. Verdugo reached on a infield single. Thanks to a really good solid hit by Verdugo to the ground. Reynolds reached on an infield single to shortstop, which allowed Lopez to score. That was before that was in the 9th inning there. The first time that the Reds have won it in over 47 years. Since they first win it since the 1975 World Series, which happened to take place at Fenway Park. Yeah, but that happened. That happened last night. Votto spiked a long fly ball to the top of the edge of the short right field wall in front of the Red Sox bullpen in the 5th inning. It popped into the air back into play. So it basically would have fallen over the fence. There would have been a home run, but it fell back towards the infield, or not towards the outfield. Sorry. But yeah, that was a story last night, and that was a team last night that really wanted it more than the Red Sox last night. Castillo had 6 innings last night. He had 10 strikeouts last night 3 walks, no earned runs, 1 hit. Had a great outing last night. Michael Wacha had 5 2/3, 3 hits, no earned runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. Not a bad performance on his part. Just a habit of misfortune last night. There was 2 infield hits that allowed 2 runs to score. It's really rare to ever see that ever happen here. It was kind of the same that happened. I guess it happened back in 1975. I read on a stat last night at Bleacher Report that same thing happened. But the Red Sox lost last night. They're now 23-27. They're now I believe they're still in 4th place, which is not good. They're 5.5 back, I believe, of the Rays. They're 6 games back of Toronto, and they're 11.5 back of the New York Yankees. Oof. And the funny thing is, they have scored the most runs in their entire division. They're number 1 in their division right now in runs scored. They are in, I believe, though, second to last in runs allowed in their division. They are actually ahead of the Orioles by 14 runs allowed. The least amount of runs allowed this season, though, the New York Yankees at 150. Go figure. They don't allow much. They play really great defense. They have really good pitching that could show for it. Even though they're missing Aroldis Chapman as their closer right now, the Yankees are. They're still doing good. They're still doing good. They're actually leading the late majors right now in 150 runs allowed this season anyway. They have the least amount of runs allowed. I believe they're second or third behind the Dodgers in runs scored. So I just basing it off on that one. But yeah, the Red Sox lost last night. Pretty pathetic performance last night, at home especially. By the way, this is Wacha's first loss of the year. He was 3-0 going to game last night. If anyone was intrigued about this game last night, I sure as hell wasn't. It was not a good game last night. It was pretty pathetic if you ask me. But yeah, I just thought that was really sad what the Red Sox did last night. I mean, they just had no effort last night. Wacha was the only one out there that even tried. They even gave a damn last night. And their bullpen still sucks, in my opinion. Still sucks. So yeah, there's no real identity right now to this team. Chris Sale, nobody knows when he's going to come back. There's now reports saying right now, like I said before, he was out added an extra 100 days to that injury that he suffered. So yeah, a setback. I'm going to put it to you like this: Chris Sale sits out this year, and I think he leaves Boston right after this. There is no future for this team. Devers, I think, will be gone. Xander Bogaerts will be gone. Chris Sale will be gone. Michael Wacha will be gone. There's just no hope for this Red Sox team to turn it around. Alex Cora will probably be gone. I think he'll just leave the team just to go find a better offer somewhere else. I don't think he'll be fired. I think he'll just resign. Because he knows the writing on the wall. I mean, he knows this team is not going to go anywhere. And it's sad because Chaim Bloom is the one who's making all these decisions. Now, it's blowing up right in his face. Now, Trevor Story's turned out to be a big investment for the Red Sox right now at this point. He may as well be taking Bogaerts' job after this season. They're going to need another second baseman again. They definitely need a first baseman for next season. They definitely need a closer. They definitely need more bullpen people. Ryan Brazier needs to go. Who was it that played last night that came in for Wacha last night? Let me see. The Davis kid. Austin Davis needs to go. He's not that good. Dykeman, I think he can still hang. He didn't allow too much last night. He had 2 hits allowed. Was able to get out of a jam. And the 2 hits he allowed, unfortunately, were just, were useless infield hits. It wasn't like that were that much of a big deal. But yeah, you talk about a scenario last night that really just backfired on you. Now, I don't know who allowed the runs. I believe it. And he may have allowed the runs. Or actually, no, he didn't. Doesn't say here who allowed the runs last night. They all came in the 9th inning, though, which I don't think they're going to count infield towards the pitching here. I don't believe. They should, but I don't think I think they should have allowed it, I think. But anyway. But yeah, the Reds last night, they put up some good numbers last night. I mean, it looked like they won this game more. This is a team that started the year were 2-22. So, I mean, they're now 17-31, which is kind of hard to believe they're actually at that record, but they are. Game 2 is on tonight, 7:10. And it looks like it will be Garrett Whitlock versus Hunter Green. I believe that's what his name is, or is it? Yeah, Hunter Green. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why I thought it would. He doesn't look like a Hunter Green to me. That guy. Hunter Green going in at 2-6 with an ERA of 5.89. Garrett Whitlock is 1-1 this season. He has ERA of 3.49. The only reason why his ERA is up a little bit more is because he led the game and he was charged a little bit with the bullpen afterward. The bullpen made him look bad. It's just that simple. I mean, he doesn't allow much. The problem is, though, they don't want to use him too much because they don't trust their bullpen. And they should use him a little bit more because their bullpen sucks. So, I don't know. Devers leads the team right now with 11 home runs, 26 RBIs. He's got an got an average of 3.43. Martinez leads the batting average with an average of 3.63. Trevor Story leads in RBIs. He already got 37 RBIs. This is a guy that really started out the year shitty. And yet somehow he's got 37 RBIs and he's hitting at 220. Someone's got to explain this to me. Because I don't know how that's even a thing at this point. Hansel Robles right now is on the IL with a 15-day IL. Chris Sale, who was added to 60 days, really. So I don't know how much of the IL he's got left at this point, because I have not looked at his progress since then. But the Red Sox are terrible. They're a terrible team. They have no bullpen. I'm not going to exhaust myself any more than I already am, because right now my battery is running low on my laptop. And I'd be ranting all day long, and this podcast probably wouldn't even save on YouTube. So I'm going to leave it at this. Red Sox are terrible. They lose the series tonight, it's over. If they go to Oakland this weekend and they get absolutely destroyed by the Oakland Athletics, it's over. I just don't believe in this team anymore. I don't. They're not going to survive the West Coast trip. They're not going to survive and this is if they lose tonight. I mean, I'll feel a little bit better if they win tonight. But if they lose tonight, and it's because of the misfortunes of Alex Cora not knowing how to handle the bullpen, not knowing how to handle the polls here, and doing things for Chime Bloom, because the Chime Bloom system ain't working. It may have worked in the World Series that time, but that was a time where it was the pandemic and it's COVID, and people wanted to see an interesting World Series. They could have cared less. And in actual reality, if it wasn't for that offense, Chime Bloom would look like a complete buffoon for his bullpen pulling ways and making Kevin Cash look like a lesser version of himself. And Kevin Cash got better as a manager, I believe, with Chime Bloom leaving than Alex Cora getting Chime Bloom in the building. So the Red Sox look terrible for this. I think their identity as far as the leaders of the pack here and trying to make some kind of a statement here late in the season, it's not there. It's not there right now. And they've got a long climb to go to deal with Tampa Bay, Toronto, and the Yankees. And you got to deal with the Angels on top of all this, which, by the way, the Angels right now have been struggling a little bit. I get that. They got swept over the weekend against the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays are a little bit better. That's it. That's all there is to it. They're a little bit better than the Angels are right now. So that's why that happened. But that doesn't mean the Angels are going to suck now because of it. So, but yeah, I just think the Red Sox have got a long climb at this point. They don't have enough star power in their bullpen, or if any star power at all. Their starting rotation is great, but the problem is it's just the rest of everything else. They're last in their defenses right now. They're last in their bullpen. They're definitely last in the infield is not that great. I mean, there's a lot of problems. A lot of problems right now with this Red Sox team. They're allowing many runs. They're allowing a lot. And this was not a good look last night by the Red Sox last night at home. Very bad way to play the game last night, and really no excuse for it. You're at home and you're losing to a pathetic Cincinnati Red team. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. But if they lose the series tonight, I don't know. I'm calling it right now after the Reds, and I know it's an extreme version of me saying the Red Sox are completely done, but they're completely done as far as I'm concerned. I'm sorry, but they have no way of getting back their momentum. Their momentum might as well be gone. So that's that. That's my opinion. The Red Sox, as far as I'm concerned, they're not ready. They're not ready for a playoff push. This team right now, without Chris Sale, without a good bullpen, with not knowing what you're going to do with Garrett Whitlock, you don't have a great. Your postseason chances are just going to be flushed down the toilet. And I think if they were, let's say they were an AL wildcard, let's say, and let's say they were the third place team right now facing the Toronto Blue Jays, they get absolutely destroyed. They would. And if it was Tampa Bay, same thing. Now, I think this year they expanded the playoffs a little bit, so they might have a shot. I doubt it, but they might have a shot. I don't know how the playoffs are going to go this year. I don't know if it comes into this year or next season or whatever. I kind of hope the expansion never happens because, to tell you the truth right now, the Red Sox would never make it. They never would make it. So the numbers just don't match. The data's not there. The analytics are killing baseball. If the Red Sox go woke, then that's it. Their season's done at this point. They may as well be woke. Might as well call them the Boston Woke Sox. I don't know. I mean, are they still the Red Sox at this point? Do they even know what they're doing? Does John Henry even care? Does Shine Bloom even care? I mean, Alex Cora, I don't think he really cares anymore. It showed last night. This Red Sox team last night could care less. Bogarts doesn't care. Devers doesn't care. Chris Sale doesn't care. He's willing to sit out an entire season. I think he should. There's no closer once again. Your closer sucks. He didn't even play last night. He's not injured. What's there to look at here? This team's pathetic, if you ask me. Alrighty, well, if you have any thoughts, give it a thought in your comment section below. If you want to go subscribe, hit the subscribe button. Again, it's a free subscription. You're not going to get charged for it. I posted stuff on Facebook. You're not going to get charged for leaving comments on Facebook. This was episode 51 of Let Us Interrupt You. Normal schedule next week. I may do a post-wrap for the Game 1 of the Celtics-Warriors NBA Finals. That is on tomorrow night at 9 o'clock on ABC. Gabe Burton will be a game-time decision. He has not played since Game 3 of the it may have even been Game 2. I don't even remember. I want to say he got injured Game 2 against them because they say it was Game 3, but Game 3 was back in Golden State. So he didn't get injured in Golden State. He got injured in Memphis. So I think they may have made a mistake where Gary Payton may have gotten injured. But Gary Payton II right now may be playing in this game. And I got to be honest here. If he does, it's interesting. Because you got the Celtic bench versus the Warrior bench here. Who would prevail here? Who knows? You can follow us on social media. Social media information is down below there. If you want to send me any message on there, you can go right ahead. If you want to follow me, go ahead and follow me. If you don't have to. Not going to pressure you. And I am going to sign off because that is the end of the episode. It was a long episode. I was not planning to go on an hour and 28 minutes. Definitely was not planning on doing that. But yeah, normal schedule next week, Tuesday and Saturday. I only did it this week because my uncle's wake and funeral is Friday. The wake is Friday, and the funeral is this Saturday. So I was not going to be able to do a show. And honestly, I wouldn't really want to do so because it just wouldn't feel right, to do a show on Saturday, on the day of the funeral, when it's really about being with family and consoling with them, and then just, it's not about me on that day. Let's just put it that way. I'm not going to make it about myself, and it shouldn't be. But anyway, I'm going to sign off now before I start shedding a tear, start choking up here, because I got to go work out and go to work later on. So, have a safe week. You'll probably see me again doing the NBA post-wrap tomorrow night. I will let you all know if it happens. Until then, take care.